Alright guys, it's Brian and Jim from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and we're up to our third game in our Simpsons-a-thon month, and today we are looking at Bart vs. the World.
Hey, remember how I said we hear from Acclaim a lot? Well, this is no different. Once again, this was developed by Imagineering and published by Acclaim. This came out in 1991 on the NES at first, and 1993 on a bunch of different systems. You know, it came out on the Game Gear, the Atari ST, and the Master System. So, I guess that was still making ports well into the 90s.
Alright, so as far as the graphics go, remember last video? Remember when I said all the games that follow Bart vs. Space Mutants on NES look exactly the same? Well, this one's no different. Here's a side-by-side comparison. See how Bart looks exactly the same? With that stupid-ass shit-eating grin? Yeah. Now, for some reason, Jim felt the need to up his score from last game, and I'll give him credit. I guess because there's technically more diverse backgrounds. Overall, it's still very average. The colors are still off on some things, and I'm gonna need at least 2 beers for that. So, we both gave it 5 as far as graphics are concerned.
Alright, the sound. Well, to start it off, I'm gonna add a beer for goddamn laziness because it sounds exactly the fucking same as the last game. Alright. Bri gave it a 5 and I gave it a 4. And I'll give credit where it's due. They do have more levels in this game, there's more music to be found, but for the most part, the sound effects are exactly the same, and that same grating goddamn Simpsons themes in this one.
But there's more music!
Yes, there is more music. Thank you, Brian. Alright.
4 is better.
You know, just for Brian being an asshole, I'm gonna add another 2 beers on top of it.
Alright, the control... it gets better by the amount of a gnat's dick. It's not much better. Let's face it. Same exact control scheme.
A gnat's dick?
Yeah, you know. Gnat's small. Their dick naturally has to be small.
I'm out of here.
But anyway, the control scheme, same exact. The only reason we notched it up a little bit was it's a little more forgiving on your jumps and some of the platforming elements. There's not that stupid ass just collect everything, so you can forgive it on that aspect, but overall it's still below average. We gave it 4s, and I'm gonna need another 2 beers, especially because of Jim.
Alright, the gameplay. Okay. It's better than last time. So, the platforming levels are back. But the good thing is that these are straightforward platformers. You're not collecting fucking hats. You're actually going along, you're jumping. It's still trial and error, it can still be a little frustrating, but it still plays a hell of a lot better. So, per country, world, whatever, there's normally 2 platforming stages, and then there's a bunch of mini games. So you'll have trivia, you'll have a card game, you'll have memory games. It's a lot of random crap they throw in there, and it can actually be kind of fun, and it's never really the same every time. Also, if you're Simpsons fans like we are, the game came out in 91, so if you don't rock the trivia, then you're an asshole. But it still gets points taken off it because of it still can be frustrating a lot. And they don't give you a lot of leeway when it comes to, say, the memory games, and it's really easy to lose them fast. So there's a lot of luck involved there. We both gave it 5s. It's fine. I'll give it another 2 beers just because of the frustration that you might run into.
Alright, the originality. Well, this game actually has a lot to offer, and I hate to sound like a broken record because you've heard it a million times, but the mini games are a big thing that we hadn't seen in other platformers, especially the trivia game. Now, granted, it's Simpsons trivia, so most games for the NES didn't have a rich enough background to offer trivia games, but the Simpsons did. So, other than that, the platforming levels themselves, there were nothing new. It's really these mini games, and it's still one of the first Simpsons games. So, we both gave it a 7, and we don't need to add any more beer to the meter, at least not for originality.
Alright, replayability. I'm actually shocked to say that there is a lot to be found here. I was not expecting this. So, we'll start with the easy one, the mini games. Now, the trivia, there's only so many questions they have in the game, but every time you go to a world, it will be different questions. Where it really comes to is saying the memory games, because they will switch up the card placement every time. It won't be the same, and it's going to be a lot of trial and error, but it's at least different, so that keeps it fun. Also, the platforming actually has some differences to it, because the enemies are never really in the same spot. Now, you can kind of memorize where they might be, but every once in a while they'll throw a different guy somewhere out of the damn blue. So, overall, we gave it 8s, and honestly, you don't need beer to enjoy the game more if you enjoyed it the first time, with more stuff added.
Add a
there.
beer for Jim being drunk.
Ah!
Listen, overall, it's a step up from Bart vs. the Space Mutants, but still, it's slightly below average. I respect that they kept it now a platformer, but it's just such a fucking boring platformer. And what the hell? Why is every boss a variant of Mr. Burns? I don't know why we didn't touch on that earlier, but that fucking pissed me off. And don't even get me started about the bullshit ending you get if you don't collect all the collectibles. That is some cheap ass shit. Here's a little spoiler. Here's what the good ending looks like. Yeah, it's not so good, is it? Just for those 2 things alone, I'm adding 2 more beers to the meter. So in the end, Jim and I, we had to give it a 4.5. This game might be slightly better than Bart vs. the Space Mutants, but it's not much better overall. It's another one that you should probably just avoid or play maybe once in your life. And you got a BRM rating of 12, that means you need to get yourself 2 6-packs, sit back, and be ready to get pissed off. As far as the beer pairings go, I'm going to go a little German on you. Let's go with some St. Pauli's Girl Lager. It's a little bit classier than a Stella, it's actually cheaper, it's got a decent amount of alcohol, but the flavor will kind of help calm you down when you're going through these annoying ass platforming levels. So, auf Wiedersehen. Thanks for watching as always, guys, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like or hit subscribe. And here, check out one of our other Simpsons game reviews so far. Come back tomorrow for Bartman meets Radioactive Man.